So in this video, I'm going to present a series of problems, and I'm asking you to go through and decide which equation is the best equation for setting the problem up. And then we'll come back to the problems, and then we'll talk about the solving of the equations. You have a defined amount of time, like 20 minutes, and so to me, based on the test results, I feel the setting up of the equation is probably the number one thing to stress here, and then the algebra becomes the second part of it. So there are only four equations at this point. When we look at a series of angles based on the problem, the angles are equal to each other. The two angles add up to 90. The two angles add up to 180 degrees. Or the three angles add up to 180 degrees. So you need to decide between the four options which equation is the correct one, and replace the squares basically with the angle measurements to set up the equation. So go ahead and do that for the triangle. And then do that for this one here. You can stop the video at any point to give yourself some time. And this next one. The fourth one. This one here, like you do, is draw two pictures. As indicated, the lines are parallel and one angle is given. And I would like you to label the remaining angles. One of the things I noticed as I was grading your test is I didn't see a lot of you labeling the angles. And as a result of that, you had a lot of numbers that were incorrect. And I really truly believe, as I mentioned early on in our discussion about parallel lines, that if you would actually label the angles around a single point, and then slide those angles from parallel line to parallel line, you will decrease your mistakes. So please do that. I would suggest turning the video off and draw the lines between the angles, and then turn the video back on when you're ready to discuss the answers. So anytime you have two lines intersecting each other, the two angles are next to each other, always add up to 180 degrees, which will make this angle here 118 degrees. And again, using the same idea, the two angles are next to each other, the 118 one below it, add up to 180. So it's going to be 62 degrees, and also the two angles that share the same vertex but are not next to each other, they're called verticals or opposites, are be the same number. And then the remaining angle is 118. So any two angles you choose, the ones that are next to each other, add up to 180. The ones that are opposite each other are the same. If I select from parallel line to parallel line, this angle here is 62. This is 118. 62, 118. The second example, 155, the angle next to it is going to be 25. That's going to give me the 180. The 120, again, it's taking 180 minus 155. We're going to know how I'm getting that. And then the angle next to that will be 155. And then the remaining angle is 25. So any two angles I select from two lines intersecting, they're either at the 180, they're next to each other, or they're equal to each other when they're opposite or verticals. If I go from parallel line to parallel line, 155 is here, 25 is next to it, 155 is underneath it, and 25 is the last angle. It's just a matter of sliding the angles from one parallel line to the next. And if the two lines are not parallel, then one group of angles will not slide to the other group of angles. Got to be parallel. Continuing on, to set the equation based on 4 choices. And the next one. And that was the last one. So go back to the beginning. All right. We only have one equation that involves 3 angles. Unless we have a protractor such as this, where it's going to divide up into 3 angles, like x plus 1, x minus 3, and 2x plus 7. In this case here, these 3 angles would add up to 180 degrees because it's making a protractor. So, not saying that every time you have a thing like a protractor, it's always 2 angles like they're supplementary or a linear pair. We can divide up into 3 angles. But anytime I have a triangle, there are 3 angles. There's only one rule we have that involves 3 angles for a triangle, which is on your toolkit. The sum of the angles is 180. So it's 5x plus 7 plus 3x plus 9 plus 2x minus 6 equals 180 degrees. Then we solve the equation. Again, I'm going to go through the equations first because of time. And then what I would suggest to you, once I get through the equations, is maybe go through and do some of the equations because, again, you're limited to 20 minutes. All right, these 2 angles are next to each other. So again, anytime 2 lines are parallel, 2 lines intersect, there are only 2 choices. The angles next to each other out to 180. The angles that are opposite each other are equal. So this is 2x plus 5 plus 5x minus 21 equals 180. Back to a triangle. 3 angles add up to 180. So 5x plus 1 plus x plus 6 plus 2x minus 11 equals 180. Okay, two lines intersect each other. The 2 angles we're looking at, they're not next to each other, which means they don't add up to 180 degrees. What we have here are 2 angles that are equal to each other. They're called vertical angles, or opposite angles. So 2x minus 6 and 5x minus 21, they equal each other. All right, so in the parallels, what I suggest that you do is you take that 3x minus 7, as it says in the directions, and you slide it down to figure out, and you place it where it belongs in the parallel line. So we come from parallel line to parallel line. So you can kind of think of this like I've done quadrants, for example, like in algebra. So if I look at quadrants here, so first, second, third, fourth, first, second, third, fourth. The 3x minus 7 is in that, I'm going to call it the first quadrant. I think about going back to graphing in algebra. So it gets slid down in this top right corner. This is called corresponding angles. You'll notice that now we have 2 lines that are intersecting each other, and the angles are next to each other. Anytime the angles are next to each other, that means the angles add up to 180 degrees. So we have 2x minus 13. The other angle is 3x minus 7. And we're going to add them together and set equal to 180. Again, if I have 2 angles, we're looking at one of 2 things. I either going to put an addition sign and end it with equals 180, or I'm going to stick an equal sign between the 2 angles. Because those are the only 2 choices when we're looking at pairs of angles with parallel lines. So again, if I look at quadrants, the place we're putting these angles at. Back to graphing, algebra. The 8x minus 25 is in the 4th quadrant, it's right here. I'll look at the 2 lines here. Those two angles are not next to each other. They do not make a protractor. They're opposite each other. They're vertical, which means that the two angles are equal. They're called vertical angles or opposites. So 2x minus 13, 8x minus 25, and we stick an equal sign between them. And I believe this is the last one. So if I slide this one down, it's going to go right underneath it. Angles are next to each other and two lines intersect. That makes it a sum of 180. So x minus 7, 2x minus 17, putting a plus sign between it so that equal to 180 because the angles are next to each other when I put them on the same line. And so they're called linear pair or supplementary. So at this point, based on the time you have left, go ahead and solve the equations. I'd suggest turning off the video. And then turn the video back on. When you do, I will have completed the problems with all of the work. And you can at least check to see if you do the problems correctly. All right, so I'm going to show you the answer key for the problems, and then you kind of fast forward through the video if you didn't do some of the problems. But anyway, what I did was I collected like terms, so I kind of did those in black and red. So the x term ends up being 10x, the constant ends up being 10, we add 7, 9, and negative 6. Subtract 10 from both sides, so 10x equals 170, and then divide by 10, so x is 17. Problem here, in collecting like terms, we get 7x minus 16. I added 16 to both sides, and then divided the 196 by 7, got an answer of 28. This problem here, again, put the right terms, so I get 8x minus 4. And added 4, so I got 8x equals 184, divided by 8, x is 23. This one here, there's no terms to collect because both sides have an x and a constant. So I generally solve equations by getting rid of the x term first and making sure the answer is a positive number. Subtract 2x. It gives me negative 6 equals 3x minus 21. Then I added 21, so it gives me 3x equals 15. Divided both sides by 3, and x is 5. Other like terms, 5x minus 20. You add 20 to both sides, you get 5x equals 200, divided by 5, so x is 40. And this one. And this one here, I don't have to put terms, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So I get negative 13 equals 6x minus 25. And add 25 to both sides. 6x equals 12. 25 minus 13, divide both sides by 6, and x is 2. And then I'll do this is the last one. If I do like terms, so I get 3x minus 24, added 24 to both sides, and I end up with 3x equals 204, divide both sides by 3, x is 68. So hopefully, again, real quick review, you have to decide on what is the relationship between the angles. You only have a limited number of equations, so you equal out to 180 or the out to 90. You don't do a lot with the complementary. It's generally equal or 180. And you have to again decide parallel lines are the angles. You slide the one end down to the other parallel line. Are they next to each other or are they verticals? Or in opposite directions with some angles.